an effective loyalty program that's highly engaging and exciting will get you new customers, because people have this like association to loyalty that it's just for my existing customers. So I have existing customers, I'll create a loyalty program. I will try to get more out of my existing customers. I'll try to bring my existing customers closer. What we're seeing, and this actually shocked us too, is that if you create a really fun loyalty program that has like access and all these like fun kind of characteristics to it, not only will your existing customers like it, there'll be people who are not yet customers who want to participate.
Welcome to Canada Now. I'm Ashley Smith, and every week we dig into the bold ideas, real stories, and fresh perspectives shaping Canada's future. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Canada Now, where we explore how Canadian founders, operators, and leaders are building what's next. I'm your host, Ashley Smith. Today, I'm joined by Matias Marquez, founder and CEO of Ethos, a platform helping brands rethink loyalty as something far more connected and human than simply points and discounts. Matias is one of those rare founders who's built, scaled, and exited a category-defining company before. He previously founded Buyatab, a global digital card company that was acquired in 2019, and he's now deep into his second act, applying those lessons to how brands build lasting, high-impact relationships with their customers and communities. Over the last year especially, Ethos has made some interesting moves, leaning hard into community-driven loyalty, user-generated content, memberships, and experience-led models that actually create belonging. Today, I want to unpack the shifts Matias is seeing in the market, what businesses should be rethinking when it comes to loyalty and community, and what he's learned the second time around as a Canadian founder building toward global scale. Matias, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for being here on Canada Now.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ashley.
I really appreciate it. I think there's so many interesting things that we can dive into. I'm so excited to explore what is coming when it comes to loyalty and building community and really long-lasting, effective community for brands. But first, I'd like to get into your founder journey a little bit, because you have had an interesting path to where you are, given your age. You're a 40 under 40. You've been recognized throughout your early entrepreneur life as being a young and high impact leader. And so I know folks who aren't watching on YouTube may not get a sense of your age, but you've done some pretty interesting things. I would love to, let's talk a little bit about how you've gotten to where you are now. And so that way we can connect some of the dots.
Yeah, where would I start? I guess I'd start with my first company. And I started that when I was a student at university. So I was just a young kid. Kind of just learned things the hard way. Like I just kind of got into it and just one step after the next. But I was a student, I went to SFU, and at school there, I ran into a problem where a friend and I needed to get effectively what we needed to do was to get a gift card to someone far away. It was someone's birthday, and we called down to a restaurant we knew they were going to. And we phoned the restaurant, it was in Chicago, and we talked to the server, and the server said, how can I help you? And we said, well, the person's coming at 5. Can we pay for part of their meal? And the server was like, I don't know if I can do this, but you're a lucky kid that it's not busy. I'll see what I can do. Put us on hold for like a while, came back and said, hey, if you fax me both sides of your credit card, both sides of your ID, I might be able to pull this off for you, right? And I'm a student at university, and we go, fax? Like, how am I going to fax you anything? Like, I don't even know how to do that, right? So that led to this idea of like, why don't these retailers sell their gift cards online? Why can't they be emailed to people? And so it started that, a long time ago now, but built that over the course of a decade. And then we sold it to a large public company based in the US. It was a tremendous journey. Yeah, it was like such a good first company to start, really good people involved. And we got it to be cash flow positive. We did raise money at the beginning. So we went through all that, and then it became profitable. And then we ultimately ended up selling it. And we had some really big customers like by the end of it, including like Walmart and Air Canada and tons and tons of others. Through that kind of process, finally accepted that I was an entrepreneur. Like when I first started, I kind of had a hard time wearing the label.
Mm-hmm.
And so that by the end of my first company, I was like a accepting entrepreneur, was able to like make some private investments in other like early stage kind of Canadian companies, which fortunately, many of them are doing well. And then I got into my second act, right? So what my second act is helping brands on Shopify create really fun community experience-led loyalty programs. And we're having a blast doing it. I mean, one of the questions you asked was, what have you learned kind of the second time around? And as you were asking, I was thinking, it doesn't get any easier, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that you have this like idea that maybe it'll be easier the second time. It isn't. But I also think that's part of the fun. So yeah, we're having a blast. The company's growing. We're learning a lot. I don't know if I would have wanted it to be any easier, easier than, I wouldn't have wanted it to be less hard. I think that these journeys are meant to be difficult, and it's part of like the beauty of them.
Maybe it's worth, before I dig in, because I want to unpack that a little bit. I want to better understand as a founder scaling a business up here in British Columbia, how that's been. But just so people get some context, if you're giving an elevator pitch, like what is ethos? How do you explain it to people?
Yeah, so it's funny, like we're on a Canadian podcast, so we'll talk about a lot of Canadian things, right? Something beautiful and something very Canadian is Shopify,
Mhm.
right? So Shopify has been this wildly successful company here in Canada. And the thing that they've done, which has been like just amazing, is they've democratized e-commerce, right? So prior to Shopify, if you wanted to have an e-com experience, like a checkout experience online that was like Nike's or like Adidas's or like, you know, Apple's, it wasn't possible, right? Like it wasn't possible because the technology wasn't there. It was too expensive for you. Even if you like had a bunch of money, it was still hard to do. And today, because of Shopify, you can create a store tonight and have a checkout experience as good as and maybe even better than the best brands in the world, right? So they've done a wonderful job democratizing e-commerce, and we think that's just the start of this trend, right? And back then, if you had asked people what's the best e-com experience, they would have said big brands. Nobody would have said any small brands. Now, because of Shopify, you can say small brands. And so we think of the world in a very similar way in terms of loyalty. Like if I were to ask you today, what's the best loyalty program you could think of? You're probably going to say something like Sephora, right? You say the Sephora Insider program, or you'd say the Starbucks program or the Aeroplan program, et cetera. You're not going to say some small little retailer, right? And we think that there's such an opportunity to, what Shopify says, arm the rebels here and give these small retailers like not a good loyalty program, but one that rivals the best,
Mhm.
right? So our whole mission and the whole thing we're after here is like, how can we give the smaller brand the ability to have a loyalty program that's as good or even better than Sephora's? So our big thing is we're democratizing loyalty so that we can offer it to more people and make it so that what people get isn't like a scaled down version. It's as good or better than the best that's out there. Does that make sense?
It does. And I imagine the reason why it's better than some of the best out there is because some of the more legacy brands are using in-house technology and things that they maybe haven't upgraded over time and maybe haven't gotten as creative with.
Well, I think it's a lot like e-commerce used to be.
Mhm.
Like I think that, if you rewind the clock, there would have been the like leading e-com brands that would have been doing it really well, and some more legacy ones that were kind of like not doing a great job. And what Shopify did was it offered the best at a really accessible price. And I think today, if you look at like loyalty programs in general, there's for sure like Sephora's program is probably the best one out there, right? So Sephora is doing a lot, like everything right. Starbucks is another good example, and I'm sure I know there are examples of big companies doing it, more like less efficient in a less kind of like engaging manner. But we don't really spend a lot of time thinking of those. We think of like what are the best examples and how can we bring that to everybody else?
Maybe to get into a little bit of the how ethos has scaled, you can give me an idea of the arc of products, like the suite of products, how it works. Because I know in 2025 in particular, you've created some really interesting new offers, especially around, I think, like user generated content types of things. So maybe you can break that down for me, what that looks like. And then I'm going to get into asking you a bit about scaling as a business yourself.
Yeah. It's funny, like we spend like probably an embarrassing little amount of time on like what competitors are doing, right? We spend a lot of time thinking about what the best loyalty programs in the world look like. And then we think a lot about of like what we hear from our customers. And then we also think about what we would like to see. Right. And it's funny, like that doesn't actually leave a lot of space for like what the competitors are doing. But I think that's actually the right way to think about this is like, we have wonderful examples, i.e. Sephora. We have wonderful customers that are very vocal and help us shape what they want to see. And we also are consumers ourselves. So we go like, if we could design this from the ground up, which we can, what do we want to see? And I think that if you think of it that way, and even if you just think of it from your like own vantage point, I don't, sure, people like discounts. People like $5 off, $10 off. But it's not what gets you enamored with the brand. It's not what gives you that lasting power. And it's not, if you ask yourself, like, honestly and truthfully, what is it that draws you to that brand? It's like never price, right? Like price plays a role, but it's never price. What it is like the founding story, the ingredients it's using, the communities they support, and your connection to the brand. So like what we spend a lot of time in, and you asked about our product kind of like roadmap and like the features we're launching, a lot of it has been in the direction of like engaging customers in a way that are not just focused on the monetary side of things, right? Like, of course, we launch loyalty programs that have points and discounts because that's like a very kind of like a requirement in like the loyalty space. But the features and like why people like us is because we really push it on the engagement side. Our loyalty programs look very different because our customers can run programs where they could poll and survey their customers. So we have brands that will like be considering a new hat, like a fashion brand that we consider a hat, and they'll actually in the loyalty program they'll offer up a poll that the member gets points for, where it's like, hey, you loyalty member, do you think we should, make the blue hat or the green hat? Right. And what we're seeing is, yes, people participate because they get points for the participation, but that's not actually what drives them. Like just their participation makes them feel closer to the brand. Right. And they love seeing that like their participation led to the brand actually creating that hat. Right. And then you layer on things like early access. So now because you participated in the poll or the survey, you get access to the product first. And then you can like leave a review about the product. You can build this like beautiful arc and this beautiful journey that you can really just think of it as community, right? And if you have customers, it's one thing, but if you have a customer community that is engaged, helping you to think about new products, giving you real feedback, we think that is the way forward. And I think that's what creates a really engaging, fun loyalty program. It's not a discount. So that's the way we think about the products and features. And that's led us to things like polls and surveys, contests. We just launched a feature called UGC, which allows loyalty members to upload their own user-generated content in exchange for points that the brand can then show off to their future customers how much their existing customers love their products.
Right.
So it's a different take on loyalty. It's not one that we're trying to copy from anybody else's. It's one going, hey, what would we like to see in a loyalty program? What do our customers tell us? And what are the best programs in the world do?
It feels like this is really trending towards a central business function versus a marketing function in terms of how companies and brands engage with their current customers and potential customers. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's like, we have these like sayings internally, right? And like, we like to say all in one place, like engagement, acquisition, like loyalty, everything kind of one place. And the reason why we think of it this way is because it works better, right? So like if you're a brand and you can see that Ashley bought your products, she got rewarded with points, she used those points to then redeem for a voucher that she brought this product, and she participated in the survey and she came to one of our events. Like there's a lot of power and a lot of like action you can take on that data. So by centralizing it all in a loyalty program, it really fits well together. It provides you all this extra insight on your customer, and it gives you all this like actionable, these like actions you can take with that information. And it's like, it does lead the brand to a place where they kind of have like a bit of an operating system when it comes to their overall customer engagement, right? And we didn't start off thinking, hey, let's go create like an operating system where all your customer engagement can kind of live. We got there because we were like, well, it makes a lot of sense to put these things together. We can provide more value if they're connected and the value is real for the brand. Yeah, so we've kind of worked our way into that direction, not because we had this big master plan, but because it just fit really well for the brand and we can see the benefits they're getting from it.
I'm going to get a little in the weeds just to make sure the audience is understanding the type of work that you're doing. So, and correct me because maybe I'm explaining it wrong. Folks who are participating in a community and are, engaging through these various sorts of activities, they can then generate points that will translate into money, basically, that coupons, discounts, things that can be used when they're shopping through a system that's integrated through Shopify.
Yeah, like it's more like the old way of looking at customers was more transactionally based, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a brand, you have customers, you incentivize them with discounts, right? And that's kind of like one way to do it. The way that like of the future is to treat your customers like a community member, right? So it's like, hey, Ashley's not just a customer because she buys from us. She's also like important to us, and she has feedback that we'd like to get. And we'd like to get her to participate in our brand building, right? So we've created these we help these brands create these really great loyalty programs where they can harness the power of the customer. And what I mean by that is like, of course, you can reward them as a customer in like a transactional way, but you can also get Ashley to participate in a survey that you have so that you can learn from your customer and you're rewarding her with points, right? You can get her to help you think of a new product. You can get her to give you actually content of maybe her wearing your products that you can use for marketing. So it's kind of like building alongside your customers and getting your customers to participate in the journey and rewarding them with kind of loyalty points.
I'm just thinking of the business owner, someone who's got a retail, they have some sort of online interface with their customers, which is, I'm assuming, the majority of retailers today, with the user-generated content, which I think is a bit of a, it's a word that gets flown around. I'm not sure lots of people, even potentially retailers, understand like what it is. Can you just break down what that is? And to me, it's like there's a vetting to this too.
Let me kind of like break it down like this, 'cause I think it'll help kind of the audience understand. So like, why should you have a loyalty program, right? You should have a loyalty program because it brings your customers closer to you and it's makes the customer more valuable to you. And that isn't just anecdotal. That's just not an idea. This is why Starbucks and Sephora and all these big brands like obsessed with their loyalty programs, because there's real ROI. Like loyalty members on average spend at least 30% more. So if you look at your customer pool, you'll see that people who become loyalty members will spend more in your store. Loyalty members will also buy more frequently, and they'll also buy things that you have more margin in, right? So the numbers are like undisputed, and you don't have to go much further than like the largest brands in the world to see why, right? Because they're very vocal about this. You know, these large companies on their earnings calls talk about how many loyalty members they had last quarter, how many they've had the next quarter. So there's no question, like a loyalty program really works. Then if you look inside of a loyalty program, you'll see quickly that members who are engaged and participate and like are creating activity inside your loyalty program are a lot more valuable than ones who are dormant, right? So then that leads you to, well, we should make this engaging, right? And so we like doing things that work. We like doing things that provide real ROI and that really help the merchant, right? So let's get you a great loyalty program because we know that loyalty members will spend more. It'll be an ROI positive thing for you. And then once you have the loyalty program, let's really lean into the things that drive engagement, because we know that engaged members spend more and they're even better customers. The UGC thing, user-generated content, follows the same kind of trend line, right? Where when it comes to marketing, we've heard loud and clear, and there's also tons of statistics that back this up, is that authentic content performs better. Like if you're looking at an ad for a brand and it's like a stock image or like an AI generated person, it doesn't convert nearly as well as authentic content. People can tell when the content's authentic. So we go, okay, we know that user generated content from actual customers really benefits these brands. We know that people love the brands and they shop at the brands and they take photos of themselves. So why not connect the two things? Why not drive engagement vis-a-vis offering the ability for customers and loyalty members to upload content so the brand can have it, the brand can use it, and the loyalty member gets points. So all of like, you know, the features we build, they kind of follow this trend line of like, we want you to have a great loyalty program. We want it to be really engaging, and we want the things that you're getting and the things that are produced by the loyalty program to be very ROI positive, to be very effective, and to be things that work. That's why we've kind of gone in this direction. And that's why the UGC has been such a great feature for us. And, you know, we don't see any of our competitors doing it, but we wouldn't have got there. Like we wouldn't have gotten to the UGC feature that we've built if we had focused on our competitors, right? Like we were always focused on like, how can we create a great loyalty program? How can we make it really engaging? How can we provide things that we know work? And that led us there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like you have pretty engaged relationships then with the clients you're working with. So you're learning from them along the way. Are there any sort of creative approaches to loyalty that you can touch on? I mean, you don't need to name names, but examples of how brands are getting creative. I'm hoping to plant some seeds for companies of the types of things they might not naturally necessarily think of when thinking about this sort of strategy.
Yeah. I think that like one of the things I think we've done well, maybe this is because we're like Canadian, is like we're not afraid of like humble pie, right? So it's like we love talking to our customers, which are these brands. And we're also not afraid to say, like, explicitly, like, you know best. We don't, right? Like you know what your you have a gut feeling of what your customers want. You have a gut feeling about what will drive engagement. And we would love to know what that is. Right. And you'd be surprised that, like, people are so willing to share. Right. So so we're very open with our merchants. Like, hey, we here are here to serve you. We have really good ideas, but our previous ideas that have done really well always come from existing customers.
Yeah.
You're an existing customer. We'd love to know what you think. And it's not it's not pulling teeth at all. It's so collaborative. And what I love about just people in general is that if you ask for advice or you ask for a suggestion, people aren't afraid to give it. Our best ideas have always come from our existing customers, and we try to create an environment where we can get those best ideas out of them. And it's not like this secret sauce. It's like, I think you just have to be humble and ask.
I'm wondering, this is where my mind is going. So I'd be curious if you're seeing this out there in the marketplace, but things like, people don't just care about points for discounts, but they like access. So folks who are highly engaged with a brand and, they've had the activity to show for it. There may be brands that are doing like private events that then those people are invited to. Like, can you give me an idea of that sort of nature of engagement and the word IRL community, like taking some of this stuff offline?
Yeah. I'd say that every brand is different, and what drives engagement for one brand will often be like quite different, and always be slightly different than from another. But the brand knows, right? Like the brand knows, hey, there's brands that we work with that have that host really great events, parties, and these types of things, right? And they're the type of brand where they'll have like a section at a festival or something, right? And they'll offer that access as something that's only rewarded to loyalty members. And that for those brands does extremely well. For another brand that isn't maybe event focused, like it isn't something they think about or isn't something that their customers are really going to attach to. Our job is really to create these tools and these ways to drive engagement in the way that makes sense for them, right? But access is definitely one that we see that works for a lot of brands. And access could be access to an event. It could be creating a contest to offer tickets to like a hockey game or like Taylor Swift tickets or something like this. It also, importantly, can be like access to a product. If you're going to launch a new product, why not offer it first to your loyalty members rather than offering it to the general public right away? That scarcity really does work. And access is not only just products, it's also sales too. What we've seen, and this works really, really well, is giving access to your loyalty members to your Black Friday sale on Thursday. That literally doubles your sales. Yeah. So like, it's funny, we've actually run this test with brands where they'll look at their last year Black Friday sales and they'll say, okay, well, this is the number we want to beat. And then the next year they'll have created a loyalty program, launched the loyalty program, and then they'll offer the Black Friday sale as a perk to loyalty members on Thursday. And then they'll still do the Black Friday sale on Friday. And effectively what you see is like a doubling in sales. They just get another Black Friday sale. It's because access works.
Is there anything you're noticing brands are having to unlearn, like shift mindset on when they're talking to you maybe for the first time about what they might be able to do?
Well, I think the thing that like is the most surprising is that a well-functioning, a highly engaging and exciting loyalty program, this kind of breaks people's brains where it can become a channel for new customer acquisition. So people don't really get that. It's like, so I'll say it again. So like an effective loyalty program that's highly engaging and exciting will get you new customers because people have this like association to loyalty that it's just for my existing customers.
Right.
So I have existing customers, I'll create a loyalty program. I will try to get more out of my existing customers. I'll try to bring my existing customers closer. What we're seeing, and this actually shocked us too, is that if you create a really fun loyalty program that has like access and all these like fun kind of characteristics to it, not only will your existing customers like it, there'll be people who are not yet customers who want to participate. And if you just ask yourself, like, like I've been looking at like a Yeti cooler for a while, right? I have not yet bought the Yeti cooler, so I'm not yet a Yeti cooler customer. But if I was on their website and I saw a really fun loyalty program that had like content on like how the coolers are made, right? I had like a little contest maybe that they were giving one away. I would have been in the loyalty program and like highly engaged a long time ago, right? So that would have drawn me into being a net new customer. And people don't think of loyalty this way. So I think the thing that is the most surprising is that if you just have transactional rewards, then by definition, the loyalty program only really fits for existing customers because only existing customers have transactions. If your loyalty program is engaging, fun, exciting, and like community oriented, well, your community is not just going to be existing customers. You're going to draw people into your community that are not yet customers.
And are you finding for folks who have brick and mortar, how they're connecting the dots between, people who just walk in through the door one day to how to engage them into their loyalty programs? Like, are you seeing any sort of trend that connects the two different sides of retail?
Yeah, like when it comes to customers, omnichannel is so important, right? Like, and we see this in all aspects of our life, right? Like you buy something online, how frustrated do you get when you can't return it in store, right? You like take it to the store, like you got to return online, right? Omnichannel is like this buzzword, but it's this real thing where like it's a baseline expectation. So for brands that have retail footprints, the loyalty program can't be different. It needs to be the same. It needs to be as easy to engage with. It's really important for us to create these loyalty programs that, like the whole point of a loyalty program is to delight the customer. If it doesn't work well in store or it doesn't work well online, like what are we doing here, right? So the in-store component is really important. So is the online component. And what's even more important is that the two have this like harmony and they're integrated well together. What's exciting about that is that you can create rewards that kind of cross into both pools, right? Like you can create really engaging online rewards that would maybe draw someone who you captured in the physical retail and vice versa. So I think that like as long as you make the loyalty program smooth, omni-channel, and like delightful to the customer that way, then it's all positive because you're now able to expose both sides to rewards that are on either side as well.
Can you speak a little bit more to the sort of small business, mom and pop type of shop? I know that you work with clients across the spectrum, different scales of businesses, but I'm really thinking about the, small to medium retailer, Canadian, trying to think about, how to maybe make a leap in their business and try to transition from idea to like action. And for folks who've maybe, had a great maternity store for the last 20 years, and they're like, they have customers that come to get, that's where they always go to buy gifts. Like how some of these sorts of mom and pop types of companies can start rethinking about their next phase of business. I know you've talked about loyalty, but just kind of how to take that leap, how to engage and understand how they can integrate this type of thing to get rolling with it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the thing I'd say is this, like, if you look at these really large companies, there's a reason why they highlight their loyalty program on their earnings calls, right? It's such an important part of their business and it's effectively an asset, right? Like the number of loyalty members is an asset for them. And there's been cases where you've had airlines who have then spun out their loyalty program and the loyalty program has had a market cap or a value higher than the actual airline. So like the point I'm making is like the big companies know this, the small ones do not, right? So like if you're a small brand, if you're a mom and pop or you're a local store, you don't fully appreciate yet that your existing customer is an asset. It's just the way things have kind of turned out. But you start an online store, you start growing, and you've been focused on the nth customer, right? You're focused on the next customer. And that's a good model because you want to grow your customer base. But at some point, you have to then go, hey, I got a bunch of existing customers. What if I could really benefit from kind of like developing the community or developing that group of people to not only like delight them, but also to grow my business, right? So I think that like loyalty is actually even more important for the small retailer. So if you're a small retailer and you have 1,000, 10,000 existing customers, sure, you should spend time looking for the 10,001 customer, the 10,002 customer, but spending no time on your past 10,000 customers is a mistake. And you should really focus on nurturing that group because, getting them to come back is a lot easier than finding the next customer. And it's also such a fun thing to do because these people have supported you. So rewarding them, engaging them, bringing them back, it's like a great thing to do. And, if you spend $20 or $30 on a meta ad to get the next customer, what if you spent $5 to bring back an old one. And the $5 didn't go to Zuckerberg, but it went to the actual customer.
Yeah.
Like that feels like such a better model. So like the thing is like, I think that if I put myself in the shoes of a small retailer, I would have done the same thing. I would have focused on the end customer because that's kind of like the way you think about things. But I would point them to look at the big brands who have worked through this and realize that, holy smokes, there's a lot of value in my existing customer base. And just because their existing customer base is a lot larger doesn't make it less valuable than your existing customers.
I'm going to digress a little because this has me thinking about something I wasn't thinking about when we first got into this conversation today. One of the issues that's been on my mind is around business succession, small business succession in particular in Canada. Excuse me if I don't get the numbers exactly right, but it's something along the lines of 76% of small to medium-sized business owners in Canada are hoping to retire over the next 10 years, potentially over the next 8. It's really high.
Yeah.
Only 1 out of 10 of them have a proper plan. 9 out of 10 have no plan. And I know that small to medium business isn't all just like brands and retailers, but when I think about some of the issues related to this, it's like folks who own a retail shop that they've been running for 30 years and have maybe built a wonderful customer base that don't have something like this in place. Putting something like this in place over the, closing chapter of your professional career could potentially impact the salability of that business, the value of that business. And the flip side is the next generation of entrepreneurs, there's this theme of like entrepreneurship through acquisition, them being able to spot like really great businesses, really great retail companies that have great customer bases, but don't have something like this in place. So I can then go in and buy it and improve it overnight, not overnight, but you understand what I'm getting.
Yeah. And like, I think that in so many things in life, I think if you can try to become a little bit omniscient and like zoom out and just like think of it for yourself, right? So like, let's say you're a small retailer who's had a store for 10 years or 20 years, and you have a great customer base, right? But if you zoom out, you know that no one else does. And if you were someone coming in and looking at your business, in one scenario, there's a business that has had 10,000 customers. And in another scenario, there's a business that maybe has 10,000 loyalty members that are highly engaged. A third party is going to value that latter much more, right? Like there's no question because it's formalized, it's structured, and the diligence and the data will show that, wow, this business is unlike this one because it has an active customer base, and we can see that in the loyalty program. So like, I don't think the reason to create a loyalty program is to add the value to then at the exit, but there's no question that it would do that. And the reason why I would do that is because it does make your business more valuable because you're getting closer to your customers and you're getting your customers to be more active.
Have you seen instances where business owners might be, let's say, a little more veteran in terms of where they are in the stage of their business, where they've maybe needed support from the next generation to come in and help them? Like, if they're not on TikTok or spending much time on Instagram, they might not understand what user-generated content really is and how it can perform, and they might not really understand how to properly engage with it, as an example. Do you see folks bringing in like younger leadership within a company to help them steer the direction of where this can go?
Yes. So there's no question that like younger people are coming into the workplace, right? But I would actually kind of push on your assumption there. Like, I don't think that like older people or people that have been doing this for a while are unaware of these things, right? Like, there's no question that because they are a part of loyalty programs, right? Like, there's no question that if you're a part of a loyalty program, you're closer to the brand and you're of more value to the brand because you're spending more, you're interacting more. And the same thing goes with features like user-generated content, where someone may think, hey, I don't really understand like the TikTok thing, but there's no question that like when they see a photo of someone using a product, they get a different feeling between an authentic, right? So I think part of the thing is like, yes, I think younger people are coming into marketing roles. I think younger people are kind of like, sure. But the other thing is like, I also think that the tools haven't really been there, right? Like, I think it's part of our job to make this so easy and so obvious that we can meet people where they are rather than trying to bring them to us.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And I appreciate that feedback. I think what I'm wondering is, and as an example, are we seeing new roles within companies coming up, like a community manager as an example. I don't know if that's the right term, but things that maybe we wouldn't have thought about in the same way 10 years ago.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, TikTok's changed everything. Instagram's changed everything. People are taking cues from the bigger brands.
Mhm.
Like this idea that like, hey, Matias, got this like crazy idea of like turning your customers into a community. Like it's not a crazy idea. Everyone, like the big brands are doing it. A lot of the smaller brands that are really leading are doing it. And it really works, right? So because it's obvious and there's a lot of great examples, you're seeing roles that follow that would be like a community manager and these types of things.
Yeah.
And the thing that like also has to follow, and this is on us, is like the tools have to be there, right? Like it's got to be easy. It's got to be like, it's got to look good. That stuff's getting better.
Mhm.
But we still have a lot of work to do. Shopify's a good example. Like people knew e-commerce was exciting. People knew they should be selling stuff online. But it took Shopify to make it so easy and so accessible for people to really do it. It wasn't like what was missing was education. What was missing was a really beautiful, easy to use platform.
Mhm.
And I feel the same way here. Like, I think people know community matters. I know people know that customer engagement matters. And I don't want to be the one saying that education is the thing. I think it's the tools are missing.
Yeah.
Like if we can make this so easy and so delightful and so obvious, I don't think much more education is needed. I think it'll just snowball.
When I speak to business owners on this show, my hope or my intention isn't to like pitch the business or whatever. That being said, I still think it's worth potential customers understanding how this works. So if someone has been thinking about how do I create a loyalty program, is this something I'd like to explore? If they were to contact Ethos to say, like, what's my next step? Is there a bit of a hand-holding process? Like, how does that exploration and onboarding work for a company who's really just getting their feet wet?
Yeah. And like, I don't love coming on stuff like this and like pitching the company, but I'll answer a question.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think that when you like a brand, you want to be involved in the brand and you want to get closer to the brand. And I think a loyalty program is a great conduit, a great vehicle to deliver that. I think it's such a win-win. I think that, brands love their customers love them. And if we can help facilitate a better relationship, it's such a positive thing to do. So this is why we like do what we do. Your question is like, if you're a brand and you want to create a loyalty program tomorrow, seems daunting, seems hard to do. How do I even start, right?
Mhm.
We think a lot about that question. So we've really created two kind of tracks. One is we have a self-serve Shopify app. So if you're a Shopify merchant, you can go to the Shopify app store, you can install our app, you can set it up yourself. Super easy to do. Does take a little bit of time, but you can set up all the components yourself. And we know that there's a good segment that's what they want. So we've delivered that. But we also know that there's these store owners are super busy,
Yeah.
right? Like even the idea of like, oh my God, I got to install an app and I got to set this thing up. That's a bunch of work, right? So we have another track for those where we'll do it for them, right? Like we will help them. We will hold their hand. We will set it up for them. We'll like help them ideate benefits, help them create a really engaging loyalty program, help them manage it. We're unique in the sense that we offer these two paths. The reason why we offer these two paths is because we totally know, like I can totally put myself in the shoes of the person who wants to set it up themselves because in many times and like that in life. But there's other times where I'm like, I don't want to do that. Can someone do it for me? So we've been able to offer both streams for customers.
Yeah, I love that. I thank you. And I'll make sure to put links in the show notes to your website so folks can explore that. I do want to touch a bit on the Canadian landscape, a little bit about just the business landscape right now, the economic landscape. And then a bit circling back to what I wanted to get to before, a little bit about your journey and how you've managed to have success. But how are you feeling just as a business owner right now?
In Canada?
In Canada,
Yeah, I think that, it's, I think it's good to be like open and like say what you feel, right? And it's kind of tough. Like, I've always been like, I said to you before we even started filming, is like, I don't even know if you can say the word patriotic or not, but like, I've always been patriotic. I've always loved the country. I've always been like proud to be Canadian, even, at times where it wasn't cool to do it and at times where it was cool. Like I've always been like, I'm proud Canadian, right? I will say that it does seem tougher right now to be Canadian. Like, I feel like there's so many headwinds. It does feel like by choosing to stay here, by choosing to build here, you're choosing to like play the game in a harder mode,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm a runner and I like running flat and downhill. And I feel like being a builder here in Canada, it's like you're running uphill, right? And I hope that's not always the case. But that is how I feel. Like, I feel like there's so many headwinds. Like, even just recently, you saw that Y Combinator is like Xing out Canada.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, like how we got to this place we're at, but we've gone to a more, like, it's gotten tougher to be Canadian, especially as like a Canadian entrepreneur, than it has been in the past. You could probably point to a lot of reasons why, but we're here.
Yeah. Do you feel like, can you highlight specific areas that feel tough? Like, is it around money, like funding, or are there other pieces? Obviously, the Y Combinator thing is very relevant. You're at a stage, I think, in your business where I'm not sure whether or not that would impact you directly with ethos. But yeah, I'm just curious, like, what feels the most difficult right now?
Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe it's just a feeling, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that there's been, like, I've seen it firsthand where I've seen founders leave,
Yeah.
and I see like that has accelerated.
Yeah.
And you see things like Y Combinator that have like previously reached out to Canadians, now no longer reaching out to Canadians. So those things, you put those things together and you feel like, hey, there's less builders alongside me here. There's less resources, even though I'm still kind of persevering and like we're doing well and we're growing. It still doesn't make you feel like it's easier, right? It's like, I would prefer that there was more Y Combinators reaching out to Canadians versus Y Combinators shutting us out. I would prefer that there was more people coming to Canada to build than a lot of people I'm seeing leave. Yeah, that's where I think it comes from. Like it's less my feeling of like internally on like our business, because we do, like, we're growing a lot of our businesses in the US anyway, right? But I don't love the fact that it's just as a purely Canadian to see other entrepreneurs leave. I don't like to see resources get turned off for Canadians. And those things make me feel like it's a tougher game.
I also think there's opportunity there for folks who are listening that I don't know exactly what the solution is, but it seems like folks who care about this particular issue, there's room to maybe create more programs or more resources or more touch points or connectivity with the builders that are here.
I don't know. Like, I feel like the people staying are like patriotic.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't know, maybe that's a sustainable model where it's like, hey, there's going to be so many patriotic people that are willing to like just say, hey, we love the country. We're going to build here because this is our home.
Mm-hmm.
But that does seem a bit kind of naive to think that maybe like more people might actually be more logical and think that I might leave because of better tax treatment, more resources, more access to things. But I just like, I'm just one person. I'm just my own kind of like lived experience. And like, I don't care how hard it gets. I'm building here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've always been proud to be Canadian. I think that entrepreneurship is like kind of synonymous with freedom. Like, I think that like entrepreneurship is a vehicle to become like yourself and free. And if I am truly the person I want to be when I'm like free, I'm living here. So it's like, why would entrepreneurship be the thing that takes me away from the place I would ultimately want to be at, right? So yeah, I think that like it might just be a thing of the times right now. Maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's technically easier to be in Canada right now. It just doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And as a proud Canadian, I don't like that feeling. Like, I want to feel like Canada's doing great. And it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I hear that sentiment. I mean, with folks I speak to and, on LinkedIn sort of discourse, that's the vibe, and that there are real examples, even in the news, of showing founders leaving Canada and going down and getting money right away.
Yeah.
That sort of a thing. But that's partly, I think that what you're building here is really interesting because it could bring better times, better years, better experiences for retailers, for example, who are Canadian, who have suffered a bit because of tariffs, as an example. Like, how can we level up with our customers, particularly the ones who are here at home? There are ways to get creative, and I think that's really interesting. So in many ways, you're offering a solution. Maybe it's a little different with, say, tech founders, tech business leaders, but certainly for the retailers, you're helping bring something to the table.
Like, even just like zooming out, like all my private investment, they're all in Canada. Right? Like, this is the horse I rode in on, right? And I think that there will be silver, like there'll be great examples that lead to a better outcome here. As long as there's a few great examples, enough people will like see that, they'll follow. And I do think those are turning point. I don't think it's so dire, actually. I just think that like I'm a product of like, I do think that there was a different view on Canada 10 years ago, and it's changed now. So I'm a little like sad about it. But I think that like it doesn't take long for that to swing back. So I think that if we have Shopify is a great example. If we have a few more Shopify kind of like success stories, I think it'll be super quick and we'll be like, wow, look at Canada go, right? So I don't think we need a ton of examples to kind of like get everyone excited again. And I think that if we can become one of those, that'll be like the joy of my life type of thing.
Yeah. And it also, to me, I think speaks to Canadian modesty a little bit. Like you've done some wonderful things in your career. And there's lots of founders I've spoken to that are excelling. And despite, even in, I do a lot in the sort of real estate arena, which is very challenged right now.
Same thing.
But companies that are really driving innovation and really proving themselves for what I think is the long term. And so I'm also going to like pat myself a little bit here. I think it's important to tell our stories because sometimes it's when that entrepreneur feels alone or sees their peer group either fading or moving that, reach out, just call Matias.
But real estate would be an example, right? Like you can't tell me the real estate environment is not challenged in Canada right now.
It is, yeah.
Right? And I'm sure, I don't know this, but I'm sure that there's people who have left, but I'm sure there's people who have stayed. And we're going to like make the best of this, right? And it won't take long for it to turn in. You don't need that many people to stay and make it awesome for it to be awesome.
Yeah. And it's a time to really dig into value creation, I think. How do you drive new ideas and create better services, et cetera. So I think that's great. I do, since we have a couple minutes, and what I sort of wanted to touch on in the beginning of the conversation, and I think we slid pretty deep into ethos fast, was your journey with your first company and with this one, just on the Canadian topic. Can you give me a general idea of just how you've looked at scaling and how you've been able to do that in a sustainable way?
Yeah. Like, I think that it's interesting. Like, I think that one of the challenges Canada's had historically is we've tried to be like the US too much. And I think that if you think of the past 5, 10, 15 years, in the US, there was this big like grow at all costs type of feeling. And Canada's never really been there. We pretended to be there for a while, but the Americans, it's actually changed down there now in the direction that where Canada has always been. So what am I talking about? I'm talking that like historically in the US, these internet companies have been more aggressive in the sense that they'll chase every revenue dollar with a bunch more money. And the main KPI and the main focus has been grow revenue, right? And in Canada, we've always looked at that and we've tried to like, a lot of people tried to mirror that, and that's always been a mistake, right? And we've always been more like, hey, we can't raise as much money, so we should be more thoughtful about how much we're spending, how much we're growing, these types of things. And it's funny because the American view now has actually shifted more in this direction. And anyways, to answer your question, like I think that the way Canadians have been operating for a long time has been more sustainable, more kind of cash flow focused. And to the degree that we veered off that, it was because we were trying to copy the US. And I think that was a mistake. So I think that there's been it's been actually quite good to be Canadian and to build like a Canadian and to not have like just followed what the Americans have been doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It seems to me that you've been very product and customer focused when you've scaled, like as you've grown. And so I don't know how you fund that growth or if it's simply through, revenue.
Yeah, like I just like, I don't know, like maybe it's me getting older, but like I've always just thought of like, what's the first principles here? What are we actually doing? Does it make sense? And I think that anytime you're building a business, you absolutely, like, who cares what your neighbor's doing? You should think of it like, how much are we spending? How much are we, like, what are we getting for that spend? And is that efficient? Right? And that has come into flavor, and it has gone out of flavor before. Historically and now, I've always been what I would say is a bit more Canadian in the sense that we've always been focused on building in a sustainable way. So have we raised money in the past? We have, but it's never been these like ridiculous amounts without a plan. It's always been like, okay, we'll raise this much money because this is what it can help us do.
Yeah.
And then we've always tried to build at least the business I've been involved in, is how can we build this business so that the business can sustain itself? Like at the very beginning of our conversation, I had mentioned one of the big milestones of my last company was when we got to become cash flow positive.
Mhm.
I think that's an important milestone. I think that like every business should be able to sustain itself. And I think that the Canadian way of like operating tech companies, there's obviously examples in the other direction, but I think in large part has been more sustainable. And I think that that's a great model.
I can say, and this is very anecdotal, but I've been able to watch you from afar for probably a little over several years now, and hearing some of your ideas and vision for what you could do at that earlier point in time to where you are now. Like I've been able to see you execute on it. And it's like you knew what you wanted, but it's not like you were trying to blow things through the roof right away. Like you were building what you could, you're, making your customers happy. And then when you could start integrating the next steps and being able to kind of build in layers in that way.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be so complicated, right? Like start something, see if it works. The people that sign up, get their feedback, build it to the next stage, and like try not to get too ahead of your skis, and just like know that it's going to take a long time, and try to build it so that it can live on its own and sustain itself, right? Like these are kind of like core principles that again, like people kind of like lose sight of that, but it's the way to think of this. I think that like it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Like to just talk about real estate as a real estate example, people ask me about my first company, they go like, how'd you sell it? Right? There's this like crazy thought that like people knock on your door and they buy the company, right? It's like that doesn't happen at all. Like I'm sure in real estate that's happened before, but it never happens. Do you see what I mean? Like who in real estate knocks on someone's door, someone to buy your house? You hear stories of it. So my point is like there's always a story of like a company that grew really quick or raised a ton of money. And sure, those stories exist, but they're so like far and few between. And I think that the companies that are the ones I admire are the ones that have done it kind of the harder way, the longer way, and the more sustainable way.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think this is such an important conversation. I really appreciate you breaking down, some of your experience and your insights. And I'm hoping that, some next gen founders are listening to you and really taking your word for, what it is. And that being said, like if folks are wanting to learn more about you or wanting to get in touch even, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best.
Yeah.
And I would say that if you're like a young entrepreneur, it's like the journey of your life. If you get excited about building something, iterating, seeing something become something that it can be bigger than even you could even imagine, and it being super challenging along the way, like you should totally do it, right? Because I couldn't imagine a different career path. I couldn't imagine a different life that I've had. I know there's a lot of people that think about entrepreneurship and they think like, should I do it? And they hear stories and they hear that it's challenging. But I would say that like you live once, life's short. And if it's something you want to do, the feeling of doing it is like, there's nothing like it.
Well, I'm proud of you. I'm proud seeing all of the moves you're making, and you're really putting like a product out there that's useful for people. And I think especially useful for Canadian companies right now. I know you're across the border here too, but thank you, Matias. I will put your LinkedIn link in the show notes. I will put Ethos website in the show notes. Is there anywhere else I should direct people to that might be worth?
I think our website, www.heyethos.com, my LinkedIn. Yeah, like I'm happy you're doing this podcast. I'm happy that there has been like a drive to like prop up Canada. Eh? Like it's been, that was a good use of the word A too. But I do feel like, I'm like such a proud Canadian, and I just like, I know that it's kind of gotten a bit challenging, but I feel like we're on a bit of an upswing.
Yeah. I think there's value in seeing the opportunity. So I hope that's the takeaway for people today. Matias, I really appreciate you coming on Canada Now. Thank you for being here. Maybe we'll check in again in a later episode. But for everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. If you are listening on audio, please make sure to subscribe to the show. Maybe give us a review. The show's doing quite well on YouTube. So if you're not there, please do check it out. Subscribe. We're putting out more and more clips to get little bite size. And I'm thinking about putting out shorter segments as well. So if you're wanting to tune into just pieces of conversations, that'll be there too. So links are in the show notes. Everybody have a wonderful day. Until next time.
Awesome.